My friend came over yesterday and he says, Steve, I sous vided and then smoked some ribs on my smoker, and they were the best ribs I've ever had in my life. Way better than any of your ribs that I've ever tried. So I got a little bit triggered and I said, Blair, sous videing isn't real barbecue. But then after swallowing my pride, I did a little bit more research, and it turns out that sous videing actually might be a really great solution for making perfectly cooked ribs. And I have the perfect occasion to test it out because my dad's birthday barbecue is this Saturday. So in this video, I'm going to sous vide and smoke some ribs, show you guys how you can do it at home, even without a sous vide machine. Let's get smoking. For this recipe, I'm sous viding two ways. The first way is with my Anova sous vide machine in a water bath, and the second way, because I know that a lot of you guys don't have a sous vide machine at home, I'm going to show you how to sous vide using a pellet smoker. More on that soon. First, I'm tearing the membrane off the back of the ribs and rubbing them with some Heavy Smoke White Label I got from pitmasterbarbecuesupply.com, which by the way is an awesome place to get lesser known competition rubs used by the pros that in my opinion are way better than the more popular barbecue rubs out there. I'll link that site in the description box if you guys want to pick some up. Next, I'm vacuum sealing the ribs in airtight bags. This will help to keep all the juices and flavors locked in while they cook, and most importantly, it creates an airtight barrier between the sous vide water bath and the ribs. Next, it's Friday night, the day before my dad's birthday barbecue, so I'm placing 2 racks of ribs in the sous vide bath at 155 degrees Fahrenheit and 2 racks on a pellet grill at 160 degrees Fahrenheit in the water bath because that is the lowest temperature my pellet grill can hold them at. My Pro 575 can go down to 175 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the minimum temperature. And I found that with this large aluminum pan full of water, it can hold it at a constant around 160 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature of the water when it's set to 175. And that's pretty laser consistent, although there are some fluctuations. I saw it go up and down from about 158 to 160, 161, and then it dropped to maybe 157. So it's not extremely precise like a sous vide machine, but it's pretty damn close. And now's a good time to talk about what is sous videing and how it can really help you make perfect ribs. Sous vide is a cooking method that involves sealing food in airtight bags and then cooking it in a water bath at a precise temperature. This ensures that your food is cooked evenly throughout and eliminates the guesswork that often leads to undercooked or overcooked food. With ribs, the real trick is to get the perfect consistency so that the ribs are bite through and they're not too tough, but they're also not mushy and they don't fall off the bone before they even get to your mouth. The way you get them like that is you pull them off the smoker at the exact right time, and often that takes years of experience to figure out because there's only a few minutes where it's that perfect consistency and you need to pull them off the smoker. There's not a lot of wiggle room for error. There's a lot of different tests for doneness for ribs. One of them is you pick it up and it should bend like in a U shape and the meat should tear off the top of the rib. You can also do it by feel, by touching it, by probing it, by sticking a fork in it. You might look for the ribs to pull back. There's so many different ways of checking for rib doneness, but really it comes down to experience. And that's why sous videing is so awesome because we're cooking at a super low temperature over a really long period of time. So that pull window or the window of time you have to pull it at the exact right consistency that you want is measured in hours and not minutes. So it makes it much easier for a beginner or even an advanced pitmaster that just hasn't nailed ribs and really got them down to pull them at the right temperature and get the perfect consistency. So that begs the question, what is the perfect time and temperature for sous vide ribs? Well, according to this article by J. Kenji Lopez Alt, the ribs are super meaty when cooked at 145 for 36 hours, and they're more of a barbecue-y type rib consistency that we're typically used to when cooked at 165 for 12 hours. The higher the temperature, the less time you need to finish the ribs, so I decided to split the difference and do 155 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 hours. Anyway, after putting the ribs in their sous vide baths, I was feeling pretty confident in my research at this point, and I really felt like I could make the best ribs possible. Nothing could really go wrong at this point. Wednesday nights are my nights to hang out with my friends and to DM a game of Dungeons and Dragons, and I often enjoy a few beers while I'm doing it. But what I don't like is waking up in the morning and still having to face all of my parenting duties and do a full-time job after having had a couple of beers the night before. And that's why I'm so glad ZBiotics sponsored this video. ZBiotics is a probiotic drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol, which is responsible for rough mornings after drinking. You just drink a bottle before your first drink of alcohol. Obviously, drink responsibly, pace yourself, get a good night's sleep, and then enjoy your next day feeling refreshed and ready to make the most of it. Basically, some smart scientists realized there's this byproduct of alcohol, and it's this toxic byproduct, not dehydration, that causes us to feel terrible the next day after drinking. So ZBiotics breaks down this byproduct that builds up in your unprepared gut when you drink. This is real science that works. It's not like some random plant extract. There's no off-the-shelf ingredients in it. And best of all, there's a 100% money-back guarantee if you don't like it. I tried it a few times, and after a night of having a couple of beers, I woke up in the morning pretty refreshed and energized, and normally I'd feel kind of drained, but in this case, I woke up and I felt pretty ready to take on the day. You can get ZBiotics for 15% off with my code in the description box below. I recommend getting the 6-pack. That's what I got. It's a great deal, and you'll have a couple extra to share with your friends. Click the link in the description box below and use code SmokeTrailsBarbecue at checkout. Go to zbiotics.com/SmokeTrailsBarbecue and get 15% off on your first order today. So it's been about 16 hours, and I wanted to check the ribs ahead of time just in case they don't look good and I have to run out to the store and get some more ribs, or if the bag is leaked or something. It looks like the bag has held up okay. It looks like there's actually a lot of liquid in the bag, which is concerning because kind of like I'm boiling my ribs. There's obviously no bark. It looks like really, I think I might have to run out and get some more ribs and just cook them normally.
Is that actually true, or is that?
I don't know, you tell me. Do they look good?
They look fully cooked.
Do they look good to you though? They just look like boiled ribs to me. As you can see, I had a lot of doubts, and I was almost ready to go to the store and pick up some ribs and just smoke them the normal way. But then I decided to phone up my friend and get some advice. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So I'm sous videing some ribs today for my dad's coming over for his birthday party, and I was wondering how you like smoke.
They'd already be in the sous vide.
No, yeah, they're already in the sous vide. They've been sous videing for like 16 hours. But I took them out and they just look like boiled ribs.
What was the set? What was you set at?
155.
Okay, and then what I did is I rubbed them before I put them in the sous vide, but I found that the rub just came right off when I was sous videing them.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, so I re-rubbed them a bit and then put them in the smoker for about an hour. And I got a good bark on them just with an hour more of smoke.
Okay, and they were good? Like they were better than the ribs you'd like normally smoke?
Texture-wise, they were good.
Yeah.
They were probably like competition texture. I liked them. No, they looked like barbecue ribs too. Like Cassandra was making a face when I took them out of the sous vide, and then I took them out of the barbecue, and she goes, "Oh, these look like just like the ribs. Visually, they were like the ones we have at the barbecue place yesterday." I'm like, yeah, just put them in the smoker for an hour with smoke.
Reassured by my friend's advice, I was pretty confident that I could make some amazing ribs, so I prayed to barbecue Jesus, I rolled up my sleeves, and I went to get her done. At the 20-hour mark, I removed all the ribs from their sous vide baths, but then I ran into another issue. What's the best way to get some smoke and bark on them and make them look like actual barbecue ribs? After some more research, I learned that starting the ribs off cold on the smoker might be the best way to get some good bark and smoke flavor on them, because smoke sticks better to cold meat, and also the lower temperature of the starting point of the ribs means they'll have more time exposed to the smoke before they get to a reheated temperature. So I decided to prepare a ice water bath and then dunk the ribs in them and let them chill for about 30 minutes to get them down to around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And while waiting for them to chill, I went to fire up my smoker. I'm firing up Big Beefy Luigi with my grill gun, which can light a fire in a firebox in about 60 seconds. If you guys don't already have one, links in the description below. They're awesome. Once the smoker comes up to 225 Fahrenheit, I'm laying down the ribs and giving them an extra hit of white label before I close the lid, because some of it got washed away during the sous vide and they don't really look like ribs right now, so I wanted to add a little bit of extra flavor. Then I smoke the ribs until they reach an internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Finally, I'm saucing my ribs with Blues Hog Original mixed with a bit of vinegar for a bit of extra tang and letting it tack up for 5 minutes in the smoker. Then I'm putting down one last layer of sauce and taking them off the smoker. After slicing them, it's time to serve them up to my dad and my family and see what they think.
Pardon me, sorry?
You can have drugs and sleep in a car for 2 days.
Okay, Dad, try this one and let me know what you think of it.
Okay. Have you got something to cut it with?
You just have to snap it now.
It's a rib, Dad. You pick it up and you eat it.
That's very good. I can taste the smoke. I can see the smoke ring, and it's got the meat is so tender, it almost literally melts in your mouth. Do I get more, or is that it?
Yeah, you can have more. So the results were pretty conclusive. The ribs that were cooked in the sous vide machine at 155 for 20 hours, they were a lot more juicy and tender than the ribs that were cooked at 160 in the Traeger for the same amount of time. However, a lot of my family members actually preferred the ribs that came off the Traeger, the 160 degree sous vide ribs, because they had a little bit more concentrated flavor. My brother actually put it pretty well. He said that the ribs that were cooked at 155 were kind of diluted and like the water was taking away from the meaty flavor. So some people do prefer that more well-cooked barbecue taste with more crumbly meat. It happens with brisket too. Some people like that really crumbly brisket texture, and some people like the really juicy brisket texture. So what I would say is, my opinion is that the 155 ribs were better. That's my opinion based on how it tasted, what the texture was like. Both set of ribs were absolutely amazing. They were perfectly bite through. They had barely any resistance, but they still stuck to the bone. So it was perfect consistency. They still had a smoke ring, which really surprised me. In fact, I can conclusively say that this is the best way to cook ribs that I've ever experimented with. And I've done barbecue competitions. I cooked for family members, doing the regular smoke first, then wrap, then unwrap, and set the sauce method. And this just results in much more consistent, better, juicy texture on the ribs. It still has great bark flavor. It still has great smoke flavor. It still has a smoke ring. So there's really no disadvantage to this method other than that it takes 20 hours to get it to the right texture and then another X amount of hours to smoke it. But there's some other advantages to this method as well. For example, if you had like a big tailgating party or a barbecue the next day, you could cook 20 racks of ribs sous vide low and slow overnight in the sous vide machine or the Traeger, and then you could pull them off. You could hit them with some smoke at the barbecue or at the tailgate party for about an hour or maybe an hour and a half. They'd still get a smoke ring, they'd still get smoky bark flavor, and you can just pull them right off of the smoker and serve them up, and they'll be perfect. There's no way that you can screw these up. Even if you have had a couple too many beverages or you fall asleep at the smoker, the ribs are perfectly cooked by the time they even get onto the smoker. So all you're really doing is just touching them up and finishing them up a little bit with a little bit of smoke. So this is really a great method to try. I hope you guys will try it out. At least if you have a pellet cooker, you can try my pellet cooker sous vide method. And also, sous vide machines aren't that expensive these days, so I think it's worth picking one up because it's going to improve your barbecue 100%, and this is a really amazing way to cook ribs. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and if you're interested in talking more about sous videing ribs or any type of barbecue or just smoking and barbecue in general, consider joining my Patreon page. I'll link it in the description section below. We just share pictures of barbecue there, and I'll give tips to people if they have questions, and it's just a really nice, close-knit community where we can all sort of help each other out on our barbecue journey and just get better at barbecue together. So I hope you'll join me there, and I hope to see you in the next video. Happy smoking.